What's truly remarkable is that the journey toward truth isn't some modern breakthrough. It's been quietly echoing through the corridors of human history for millennia. Beneath the surface of civilizations and empires, wars and revolutions, there has always flowed a subtle, unwavering current. This current, what some have called the perennial philosophy, has been sensed by a rare few across time. But for many, its wisdom slipped through their fingers, reduced to abstract ideas or intellectual musings, and in doing so, absorbed into the identity of a false self. This timeless theme runs through every major spiritual tradition. Each one, in its essence, attempts to point us towards something beyond the ordinary mind. And yet, organized religion often becomes entangled in the very ego it seeks to transcend. There's something almost bittersweet in this contradiction, a collective irony that reveals just how deeply entrenched our unconscious patterns are. These patterns manifest not only in our institutions but also in our personal lives. First, we recognize them in others. Eventually, with enough courage and honesty, we begin to see them in ourselves. And sometimes, this realization arrives with a touch of laughter. A laughter so pure that it transforms suffering into liberation. Over the past few decades, I've observed my own mind fabricate entire narratives of conflict and struggle from virtually nothing. I found myself complaining, resisting, obsessing over others and situations, pulled by the magnetic force of an illusion rooted in ego. That illusion, subtle yet powerful, spun endless stories that distorted my experience of life. Eventually, the weight of it became too much to bear, and in that crucible of suffering, something quietly beautiful began to emerge. The darkness gave way to a surprising sense of peace. My entire perception started to shift as a higher dimension gently began to illuminate my awareness. When you allow this transcendent presence to enter your inner space, you no longer view life through the distorted lens of the false self. That false identity, obsessed with control and judgment, feeds itself on discontent, thriving on the narrative that something is always lacking. You can see this pattern everywhere. People criticizing, complaining, and reinforcing their sense of self by highlighting what's wrong. In doing so, they place themselves above others, subtly asserting superiority through the act of condemnation. This pattern of negativity strengthens the false self. For some, it becomes a way of life. When someone has little else to hold on to, they resort to belittling others. Their identity becomes wrapped up in blame and resentment, and with each complaint, their ego grows a little more. It's as if they survive on negativity, drawing energy from each grievance like a flame feeding on dry wood. So what must we truly understand? We need to turn away from the endless stream of thought that fuels this illusion. Real transformation begins when we create space between thoughts, when we stop chasing mental forms and start observing them. Life is not just made of events and reactions. It is also made of the stillness between them. If we remain lost in form, we resemble a dog chasing a rabbit, always running, never arriving. Then comes a sacred moment, perhaps fleeting, when you stop. You let go, even if just for a second. And in that pause, a new kind of awareness begins to emerge. Life is no longer a frantic blur of experiences. Instead, it opens up into vastness, into silence. When you stop labeling everything, when you cease interpreting every circumstance, what once disturbed you simply loses its grip. You see things as they are, not good, not bad, just present. This doesn't mean passivity or inaction. On the contrary, action is often necessary. But there's a profound difference between action that is burdened by judgment and action that flows from clarity. When you move through life without inner resistance, your energy becomes cleaner, your impact more profound. You act not out of frustration, but from a deeper sense of alignment. As you walk through life in this state of presence, you shed the confines of your conditioned identity. You begin to embody something boundless, something real. And let's be clear, true spirituality isn't about clinging to visions of angels or conceptualizing divine hierarchies. It's not about adding more content to your mind. Spirituality, in its purest form, is the ability to be spacious inside, to stop clinging to thoughts, to allow silence to arise within. That silence is not emptiness. It is aliveness. It is presence. It is freedom in its truest essence, a transcendence not just of thought but of self. Some might even say it surpasses the boundaries of time and the limits of the known world. Whatever words we use, this inner space is timeless. And within it, we begin to experience life differently, more fully, more vividly, more freely. This, at its core, is what Vadim Zeland explores in his teaching of transurfing reality. In his groundbreaking insights, he pointed to the subtle yet profound shift in collective consciousness, where manipulating public awareness becomes easier and stepping outside the mental matrix becomes the true act of power. In a world moving rapidly toward unification, the most meaningful perspective belongs to those who choose to observe from beyond the crowd, beyond the narrative. If this exploration of thought, ego, and transcendence resonated with you, let that be your sign to subscribe, leave a comment, and join us on this journey. Each moment of awareness is a step toward freedom, and together, we uncover a life not defined by struggle, but by vastness, depth, and peace.